Yeah, I'm gone now. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I apologise for laughing, but before this all started, which you may see in the director's cut, Mr. Farrell has been making highly inappropriate comments. And he's also been, don't give me that look, he's also been weeping tears of joy and love. As well he might, because he's sitting behind a virtual backdrop of Lyme where we all should be this weekend. Unfortunately, we're all stuck in our houses because of this virus. Anyway, that aside, I am delighted to be here this afternoon with the one and only Mr. Derek Farrell in a panel that has been called or titled loosely 50 Shades of Noir. Now, if that, when you see me, especially with the hair at the moment, gives you the dry heave, we apologise for that, but this is an adult festival. Alcohol is available, hopefully. But what we're here to discuss this afternoon is the two polar opposites, well, the seeming polar opposites of Derek and I. Me being a Scottish crime writer, very gritty and noir, as you can probably tell, and Derek being, well, Derek, introduce yourself.
I'm Derek Farrell. I'm very Irish and I'm very gay, and I write what are termed contemporary cozies, which, as you say, there's nary an autopsy scene or a beheaded body in mine yet.
What Derek also does, and he sells himself short, as he writes brilliant characters and some of the most arch and beautiful one-liners you will have. However, what this panel's about is the seeming dichotomy between Derek's work and mine. We're on polar opposites of the spectrum. I'm the gritty, hard-boiled crime writer, and Derek's the cozy crime writer. However, we met, and our friendship was formed about, what, 6 years ago now, was it? 2014, 2015?
It would have been 2015. No. Nope, it was 2016. It's 4 years.
Was it?
Yeah, you think we would have sorted this out before we hit record, but yeah, I think it was 4 years ago, because I was already published, and the first one came out 2015, and we met at Bristol, which takes place in the May. So this is how my brain works. It sort of slots bricks together. Yeah, we met in the May at Bristol, and that wouldn't have been the 15 because the book didn't come out till the end of 15. So it would have been May of 2016 when I think the second book was just about. Because back in those days, I did one every 6 months. The naivety.
But looking back on that first meeting where alcohol of various forms might have been taken, you've confessed to me that I made a very particular impression on you. Not the one people may be thinking of.
Well, you were so. It was one of my first crime festivals. I didn't know that many people. I knew some people, but not to call dear friends like I would now. And so I've sort of rambled off. I'm on my own. I ramble up to the bar, and you're there, and I don't know if any of our viewers have been to other crime festivals. I think next year at Lyme, I cannot wait, because one of the challenges that crime festivals often have when they get an army of authors and an army of readers together is they don't get an army of bar staff. So you tend to have one or two bar staff who very quickly have breakdowns because you got you got the old lags, the roues of the crime world screaming for their booze now. And there you were, sort of over the bar in a really alpha male pose. It was a proper right, I've got this. There was no aggression. There was no no threat. There was just purely and simply, I am focused on this. And you sort of looked at me and went, all right. And I was like, okay, just don't mess with this one. He wants a drink, don't chat, because if you chat, you'll distract him, and then it'll be your fault if he gets bypassed for someone else. So yeah, I had this really immediate impression of someone who was like, even from all right, I was like, oh my God, he's Scottish. And I'm not proud of making that immediate judgment, but it was an immediate judgment. Sorry.
What I will say is, I do have a cultural stereotype to live up to, and I am Scottish. I was trying to get a drink.
I'm Irish, so I don't know why I thought I was better. I was actually, I think I was waving a 20 like this, so I looked like I look like Neville Chamberlain.
However, from that initial meeting, we got talking, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I then went out and found, if I can find it,
The first one.
the very first one. Can people see that at home? I hope so. Because we had a really...
You didn't find it at the bookshop at that festival.
However, there is a great online retailers for Lyme where all these books can be found. That aside, we got talking, and what became clear very, very quickly clear, apart from the fact that the gin and tonics weren't that strong, as I recall, was that we were on the same path, because what you were doing was what I had done in 2014, because Bristol was my first crime festival with my first book as well. And what quickly became clear was we were both basically fans of the genre who had done what we always wanted to do, written books, albeit very different books. But when I picked up your book, the first thing that got me was, okay, it's a small publisher, so I hadn't heard of you, and I hadn't heard of Fahrenheit, and I hadn't heard of anything. But what I saw very quickly was, the warmth and the complexity of the characters and what was going on with Danny there. Yeah. And there was a focus on character and situation that reflected what I was doing. So even though we were coming at it...
Absolutely. When you said, where we were coming from very different places, the thing that I loved about yours, that's the first of it, the first of a series. There are two more, but my hands aren't big enough to hold them all up. This opens with a pretty brutal scene, and then you very quickly go from outrage to outrage, and it is quite gritty, and you've got decapitations and all sorts of things going on. But it has the same heart. It has the same sense of characterization. The characters are people that you want to spend time with. And so I think although you write far more gritty stuff, the underlying characters, and to be honest, isn't that what, certainly in my case, I read books for the characters. If I don't have any emotional resonance with the characters, it won't matter what type of book it is. If the characters are not singing, then it won't work.
Yeah, precisely that. And that's what you get from Diva, from the off, is you get this cast of characters that you want to spend time with. Okay, you do intricate and clever Christie-esque plots, and it's fun to see how you tricksy them out. But that's not why I'm reading your books.
I'm having that engraved somewhere. Intricate.
Well, we've recorded it, so you can play it back.
This is my sales pitch to the Christie estate. Sophie Hannah's got Poirot, but no one's got Marple yet. So if you're looking.
So tell us about the evolution of Danny and where the link, the DNA link, if you want, between Danny's Christie-esque plots. I'll say it again. Derek Farrell delivers Christie-esque plots with a modern twist. There you go. No, but take us.
I'm going to get you to say that at the end so I can record it.
So, take us through that journey of the development of Danny and the touchstones, as you've said, Marple, etc., that developed him, that gave you this rounded world that people want to go back to.
Okay. So, almost as soon as I could walk, my dad took me to the library. I had an absolute passion for books, as did my dad. I very quickly settled on mysteries and adventure stories. And I think when I was about 9 or 10, I was quite ill for a few weeks. And my dad gave me Poirot's Early Cases, which is a book of short stories to read. Fell in love with them, read all of the Christies. I'm doing the Cliff's Notes version. It's a rapid run through. When I was 40, for my birthday, I was given a series of writing classes at the Broadfoot Club in London, which was this lovely, glamorous artists club. And I went for was about 3 or 4 hours every Saturday for about 8 weeks. So yeah, I went to do this course, and I wanted to write historical crime. And they do this exercise, which a lot of creative writing classes will do, where you have to create a character and you have to really interrogate the character and understand who they are. And I made no secret of the fact that the character I made was a sort of a thinly disguised, better version of me. And then in the afternoon, they say, so that's your morning, go for tea. When you come back, you're going to destroy this person's life. So, you know, that standard thing about create your character, then put them in the crucible and see what they do when you turn it up. And so we did that, and that was it. I had no intention of ever writing a story, let alone a book with this character. The piece I wrote has a character. He's he's a sort of a gay everyman. He's living with a wealthy city lawyer in this big house out in Windsor. And our protagonist works as a mailroom boy in a magazine. So he gets up one morning, he goes to work, he's made redundant. He comes home feeling quite dejected, finds his boyfriend in bed with the window cleaner, walks out, leaving everything behind. And then realizes he has nothing to his name. He's back in his parents' house, sleeping in the bunk bed that he last slept in when he was a teenager. That was the piece, wrote it, job done. Except for the rest of that course, people kept coming up and saying, well, what happens next? And I was like, well, nothing. I'm writing about the ancient world. I don't have space for this character. But eventually, the character gnawed at me and was like, well, what would happen next? You've basically broken him. What more could happen? And I was like, oh, I know what more could happen. He could end up running the world's grimiest pub. And on opening night, his star turn could be found strangled, and he's squarely in the frame for it. And so, I think put them up a tree and throw rocks at them. Well, I put them up a tree and threw rocks at them in chapter 2, and then basically piled kindling around the base of the tree and set fire to it. And that was it. And I wrote the book, had zero expectation that it would sell because it was not a straight protagonist. It was a gay protagonist. It was sort of very working class. There is an aristocratic best friend. And there is an awful lot of profanity and more booze than a writer's convention. And I thought, well, it won't sell. It'll never sell. I made a couple of attempts to pitch it, and I had people come back and say they really liked it, but absolutely change the protagonist. Make the straight female the protagonist and the gay male the sidekick. And I was like, that's not what I wanted to do with this. I wanted it to be his story. And then I thought, well, I'll self-publish. That's what I'll do. And I ended up meeting a guy who was setting up I didn't realize he was setting up his publishing house. I just knew that he had a history in marketing, and was picking his brains because I was going to self-publish the book. And he was like, well, why aren't you pitching this to me? I was like, well, I'm very rarely speechless, but I was speechless. So I pitched it, sent it to him told him I would pitch it. Got up on Saturday morning and was messing around on Twitter, liking things and retweeting things, and got a direct message saying, "Oi, Farrell, stop fannying about on Twitter and send me that parcel you're supposed to send." And I was like, that was the start of my working relationship with my publisher.
There's echoes there of what happened to me. Again, this is another similarity, and I don't know if you know this or not, but when I started, the Connor series that you've got there is my second series.
Yeah.
The first series was started with a book called Falling Fast, which centres on an Edinburgh-based reporter called Doug McGregor.
Yeah.
And like you, I more or less boxed myself into a corner and got a message saying, where's this sodding script? Because what I did was, I've always wanted to be a writer, and I've always, it's like you, but I just went a different way. I taught myself to write by becoming a journalist. I always knew this was all I ever wanted to do. And I wanted to do it specifically to dedicate my first book to my gran, because I promised her when I was a kid that I would do it. Life got in the way, it didn't happen. And then something happened that triggered the whole thing again. I was like, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this published. Don't care what I have to do. I'm going to do this. And me being me, I was walking through Edinburgh, looking at the Scott Monument, which is a big famous monument right in the centre of Edinburgh. And I was so hacked off, I thought, I'm going to throw somebody off the top of that. That's all I had. So I threw them off it, and I wrote this incredibly visceral scene about what happens when the body thump, bang. And I just kind of went from there. I wrote 6 chapters of it, and I sent it off to a publisher. No real great expectation. And then I was working at the Scotsman at the time, went back to my life, got an email one day saying, this is really good, can I see the rest of it? Okay. Can you give me a couple of weeks to polish it? And I had to write
you've got to have the whole book written before you submit.
Which is what you're meant to do, but me being me, didn't do it. So I had to write the whole thing in about 2-3 weeks.
Why do I ever take any guidance from you?
There's my
said you should do that, but screw it.
Don't get me wrong, it was the stupidest thing I've ever done, but I was so determined to get published and to fulfill this promise. I did it. I will say that the draft of the book that I came up with was not the book that got published. It was very different because it went through a big edit and whatever. So yeah, it's interesting that the commonality of, do you want to pitch this to me now, was there.
You had, but I mean, there's a difference because you had written professionally. I had done the exact opposite. I loved reading and I loved writing as a kid, but I had very much acquired a mindset that people like me don't get to write. So from the age of 18 when I left school up till 40,
yeah,
I didn't. I mean, I like I said, probably in my mid to late 30s, I started tinkering with it again. And the big change was the arrival of word processors, because at least I didn't have to have 300 pounds of paper stacked around. You know, I could sit here in my office and type away. Yeah. And my other half knew I was writing, but it didn't matter because nobody was ever going to see all the paperwork and figure out just how bad it was. But yeah, I had acquired a mindset that in my youth, people like me didn't get to be writers. And then as I got older, it's too late now because you're not a hot young 20-something debut author, and therefore it's not going to happen. Which is why I was not surprised when I got rejection letters for Diva, but I was more surprised when I got an email saying, I won't beat around the bush. I don't like this book. When you open the email, the publisher wrote, I love it, and we want to have this book. So yeah, there's a difference there. Your knowledge, I think you had more faith in yourself than I had in me at the time.
Oh God, no. No. And actually, I was speaking about this earlier, and we've spoken about this before. I think you've had a more extreme experience of it, but everybody has imposter syndrome. Yeah. Everybody. And this is something that, in fact, we discussed this the first time we met.
That was the night at the bar. That was because once we started talking, and we were talking, and it was like, okay, you're a writer. Oh, I'm a writer. Oh, you're first, and it was this sort of like, suddenly I'm like, all right, there's commonalities there. He's not this. I was going to say he's not this giant scary Scot, but people who've met you and me will know that there isn't that much. He's not this sort of scary character, and it was like that. Absolutely, we had that real sort of bonding moment when we suddenly started discussing imposter syndrome and that fact that you look around that bar and you think, all I hear is Carrie's mother. You know the movie Carrie? They're all going to laugh at you. They're all going to laugh at you. Yep. And you know, you're waiting for someone to go, really? That crap is what you're calling a book? They're all going to laugh at you.
The thing is, though, right? And you know, how many books are you in now? 6?
Now I've got 4 novels. Oh, God, I'm vanishing. 4 novels and a novella. At the moment, I'm writing the 6th one. I've been to way too many panels where the actual conversation bore zero resemblance to what was billed at the front. In
You
fact,
just
I
described
have
my
a bubble
writing
gag
career.
here somewhere. No, I don't.
You've just described my writing career in a nutshell of the contents bear no resemblance to the description because I've got to deliver synopses to my editor. That's the book I'm writing. And then she'll get a book that isn't that.
I mean, I'm very honoured and thankful for the comment about the Christie-esque plots, but you've been trying for ages now to get me to be a little less control freaky in the way that I write.
Yeah.
Because you don't, I mean, you start with that image of a body coming off the Scott Memorial.
Yeah, that's all I've got.
Line. That's it. And
yeah, that's it.
How do you keep that? I mean, how can you keep track? Because none of your books have ever ended up with I can never find a loose thread. Everything ties up. Stories are explained. Motives are clear. Everything's fine. And I'm like, for me, the only way I could be sure of doing that would be to start by knowing everything, where you start knowing almost nothing.
If I knew what the secret was, if I knew how I did it, I'd tell you. I don't know. All I know, I think it might be a bit of the Stephen King thing of, because I'm writing it as I go, and this is why I'm trying to get you to let go of the plotting thing. We'll get back to that, and we'll get back to the imposter syndrome thing in a second. If I'm writing something and I've got not a clue where it's going next, I'm writing it because I want to know. I want to figure out the mystery. I want to know who did it. And if I'm doing that, hopefully that urgency transfers into the page and the reader gets a better experience for it. But that does feed the imposter syndrome of, oh God, here we go. Here's another 100,000 words I've got to do, and I've got to try and make it all up out of nothing. What I'm trying to get you to see is that the thing about the Diva books, sorry, not the Diva books, the Death of books, the Danny books, is that every one that I've seen from you since we first met, there's been an upward progression of the old writer's adage of, what's your favourite book that you've written? Well, it's the next one. Why? Because I've got better.
Yeah.
And you're at the stage now where if you run with it, you could do something pretty special. And the big secret of writing is it's more fun when you just make it up as you go along.
Well, that's funnily enough, like you say, I am doing the new one, and I am sitting here with that. Oh, it's gone.
Oh,
Why doesn't it work? There you go. It says,
make shit up.
Make shit up. And that's my mantra.
Well, what Chris Brookmeyer said that we're all graduates of, what was it? The University of Making Shit Up. Sorry, MSU, that was it. Make Shit Up University. That's what we're all graduates.
I like that one. No, I'm the new Danny Bird has a complicated plot that I know enough about, but taking your guidance, I'm like, okay, don't spend the rest of the summer working out a complicated plot. You've got a shape. You know who did what. You know what needs to happen. And it is really good because there were a few bits at the beginning. It is really good, he said about his own book. There were a few bits at the beginning where I was like, it's missing the heart, but it's fine. I'll start writing and figure out what the emotional heart of it is. And I did. Yeah. I did, just by knowing the characters and starting to write it. And then suddenly it was like, oh, what if that's, yeah. And now, and it is really strange, like psychologically watching how that works.
Yeah.
And realizing that you're not really in control. As much as I'm a bit of a control freak on it, you're not really in control because the brain will throw random things out, even if you plot it really tightly. And
that's for me, that's the joy of it, is that Ian Banks, the much missed Ian Banks, he said once that, you know, he was asked this question. He said, oh, I am the god of the world of the book, and my characters will do everything that I say, and everything is regimented, and I know the book is working when the little shit starts speaking back to me. And that's exactly it. I have characters in my books who were meant to be bit players who turned into central characters. And one of the guys who was meant to be nothing more than a kind of walk-on villain, Paulie, has become a central character.
Favorites. I don't normally love villains. And there are a couple of moments in the books as they've gone on where you really get a sense that, okay, he's not, well, actually he is all bad, but he has loyalty, and that's
Yeah.
part of what's driving him forward. And loyalty, as misplaced as it might be, is a positive trait. But we've had this conversation before. I just think, Paul, for those of you who haven't read the Connor books, Paulie is this sort of enforcer for a very dodgy character. I'm not going to call him a gangster because I think he has been a gangster, but he might not be a gangster, but he sort of is a gangster. But anyway, Paulie's the enforcer. And Connor ends up sort of dancing around the edge of a relationship with the gangster's daughter. And Paulie has taken it upon himself to make it very clear that he's watching. And if Connor makes one wrong move, and it is just the scenes with the two of them, even more so than the scenes with Duncan. I love the scenes with Duncan because those are a real ballet of two alpha males, each trying to figure out how they can, because they both know if they screw up, one of them will lose Jen. So they're both sort of dancing around that. Yeah. But with Paulie, there's no finesse. He's like, I will break your fucking fingers if you do the wrong thing. It's like, okay.
But that's it. You do exactly the same with Danny and Kaz. That dynamic is what drags me and drags readers, because looking at your reviews, everybody complimenting the same thing. You've got a compelling character there who people desperately want to know what's coming next with.
And that's really nice. Although my favorite review is the one that says the writer is clearly a woman working under a pen name because they know far too much about women's fashion. And I was like, have you met any homosexuals? I'm like, yeah. Or my other favorite one is 1 star, atrocious, deleted at 33%. And I was like, well, that's a shame because it turns into Tolstoy at 35. But
oh, that's brilliant. You see what I mean about these lines, or these zingy little comeback lines? I wish I could do that.
Are we supposed? Should I edit that out? Are we supposed to discuss our really shit reviews?
Everybody's got them.
Hey, everybody, buy my book. It's atrocious.
Christie-esque and atrocious. There you go.
Atrociously Christie-esque. There's a t-shirt slogan. Atrociously Christie-esque. There you go. Of course, I'm going to have a barrel chest to fit that on because it'll stretch like there. But this time,
by this time next year, we'll all be about 3 times bigger because when we're in real life,
don't even go there. So Neil is a proper fitness guru, and he does all the right things, and he has spent quite a lot of time during lockdown sending me little reminders and things I could do, and I always read the little reminders while I'm going for the 3rd digestive or topping up my 4th gin, and I say I must do those things. I've put them in a special folder. Well, I say folder, trash, but they're in a special so we'll get to them one day.
It's nice to know that all my expertise and years of training are being used so productively.
It's been a huge. Well, I did try the first few weeks in lockdown. You were sending me little workouts that we could do. You were sort of like my own private Joe Wicks, except I was working out in my bedroom upstairs, and it was hot weather, and the window was open, and I came down from one particular session, including an awful lot of, I think it was burpees and squats, and then jumping down into press-ups. And my other half was downstairs saying, Jesus Christ, can you make sure the windows are closed if you do that again? Because the neighbors are out the front, and all they can hear from our open bedroom window is you grunting and groaning and saying, I can't get up off the floor, I can't move, stop. So, I was told that was probably not an ideal representation to give to our nice suburban neighbors.
No, but it is very, very, very indicative of the 50 Shades of Noir title that we managed to circle all the way back right.
Oh, on top, job done.
So shall we, since we have done such a complete orbit And we've ended with you sweaty in a bedroom and your husband thinking that you've done something wrong. Shall we call it there and say thank you?
I am slightly bulkier than I was. So he said at one point he was wondering if I was moving furniture. And I was like, no, that wasn't a wardrobe. That was just me.
And since we're not going to top that line, and since our time is up, it falls to me to say thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this, and thanks for your friendship, and thanks for
And
saying hello at the bar all those years ago.
Thank you for not disturbing me when I was trying to get my drink. And waiting until I got the drink and then talking to me.
You did get it, though. You did get it. You were giving them the beady. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. Derek's books and mine are all available online. I have no idea if bookshops will be open physically for you to get them by this point, but you can get them all on all good online retailers now. And it only falls to me to say thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.